Good day, sir. Good day, everyone. So, I'm Daniel G. Taipa, and I will be the first reporter for the topic of men and masculinities. So, here is the lesson objectives. This module discusses the many phases of men and masculinities. It also discusses themes of masculinity, its relation with well-being, federating domestic rules, and drug alcohol use. This module finally deals with hegemonic protest and caring masculinities. At the end of this module, you are expected to first, understand the fully means and studies and the construct of masculinities. Second, know the fully themes of masculinities and its relation well-being, federating domestic rules, and drug alcohol use. And the third is comprehend hegemonic protest and caring masculinities. So what is the men and masculinities, by the way? Masculinities, the social expectation of being a man. The term masculinities refers to the rules, behavior, and attributes that are considered appropriate for the voice and men in a given society. So, masculinity is constructed and defined socially, historically, and politically rather than being biologically driven. So, there are four different types of masculinities, which is the hegemonic, subordinate, complacent, and marginal. So in the first case, hegemonic masculinities is the form of embodying male domination and exercising power and authority over women and other men. With these consequences, oppression, violence, and privileges. So let's say, for example, the use of institution to formalize power. Another example is that the inclusion of populace in the ideals to hegemonic group through education, advertising, and publication, and etc.
Here is the sample picture of hegemonic masculinities.
So another type of masculinities is the subordinate. That placement a lower class, rank, or position, the act of process of subordinating someone or something of the state of being subordinated as a prescriptive text. Moreover, the Bible has been interpreted as justifying subordination of women to men. So sinasabi sa Bible ay dapat yung lalaki ay para sa babae at yung babae ay para sa lalaki. Hindi dapat opposite yung pag-iibigan. Hindi dapat yung lalaki ay umiibig sa kapwa niyang lalaki at yung babae ay umiibig din sa kapwa niyang babae. So it is a sin. So dapat ang lalaki ay dapat sa babae. Ganon dapat. So the third types of masculinity is complacent, marked by self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by an awareness of actual danger and or deficiencies. So, example of complacent is a person working in their office and not worried about the danger, weather condition outside. Let's say, for example, ikaw ay government employee at yung government employee is ginagawa nila yung trabaho nila. They are responsible on what they have. They are responsible, their obligation to be a employee. So sinasabi dito, complacent is defined unconcerned in short. So let's say for example again, nagtatrabaho ka sa office nyo at nakita mo na malat yung office nyo, hindi nilinisan man lang. So you are complacent person. You are unconcerned, kumbaga. So the four types of masculinities is the marginal masculinities. Is a value or having of characteristic that is of a value that close to being unacceptable or leading to exclusion from a group or a category. So let's say for example for this marginal. So ako, may kaibigan akong babae at lumilipas yung maraming taon ay nagiging lesbian na siya or nagiging bi siya. So yung bi ay nagkakagusto sa lalaki dahil babae siya at kaibigan ay nagkakagusto din sa kapwa niyang babae. So hindi ko acceptable na dapat bi siya. Dapat babae siya, kung ano man siya, maganda naman siya. So in short, the marginal is unacceptable. So let's proceed for the second topic, which is the masculinity themes. Masculinity is a social, cultural, and historical construct dependent and unrelated to other factors such as class, ethnicity, sexuality, age, and disability. Researchers on men's studies and masculinity establish common themes which strengthen and develop these involving concepts. So, multiple masculinity. Accordingly, there is no one patterns of masculinity that is found everywhere. So, in this era, there's a lot of researchers who studies about the masculinities, about yung pagkalalaki ng isang tao. Men's Right Lobby. One of the main founding texts of this lobby is by Warren Farrell. In his work, The Myth of Male Power, Why Are Men the Disposable Sex? In 1994, according to him, men are now the gender victims as the result of feminism having gone too far, with men having increased responsibilities but few rights around issues of marriage, divorce, and child custody, and access to children. Modern legislation is seen of over perspective of women's interests, resulting in the discrimination against men at that time, when they are under increasing that within rapidly changing society. Still, some researchers argued that these pro-male movements were only reaction feminism, an attempt to accuse women and feminists for creating problems that men encountered in societies. So, yung mga lalaki is biniblame nila yung mga babae because yung mga lalaki is they are gender victims because means is the haligi ng tahanan. So, ginawa ng lalaki yung responsibilidad nila para sa kanilang pamilya. And women is responsible is ginawa dapat nila yung obligasyon as a mother to their children. Dapat pinapahalagahan nila yung kanilang anak tungo sa kanilang kinabukasan.
This is the continuation of our report. Number 2. Hierarchy and hegemony. Typically, some masculinities are more revered than others. Others may be dishonored, homosexual masculinities, in modern Western culture. Others are even socially marginalized, the masculinities of disempowered ethnic minorities. Others are even exemplary, taken as symbolizing admired traits. The masculinities of sporting heroes. The form of masculinity which is culturally dominant in a given setting is called hegemonic masculinity. Hegemonic signifies a position of cultural authority and leadership, but not a total dominance as other forms of masculinity persist alongside. Hegemonic masculinity is defined as practice that legitimizes men's dominant position in society and justifies the subordination of the common male population and women and other marginalized ways of being a man. Why hegemonic masculinity important? It is because the concept of hegemonic masculinity enables us to acknowledge the existence of plural masculinities and how it encourages domination between men and women, as well as between men themselves. Hegemonic masculinity embodies popular heroes, role models, and fictional characters. According to Kimmel 1997, hegemonic masculinity contains within it the image of the man in power, a man with power, and a man of power. We equate manhood with being strong, successful, capable, reliable, in control. The very definition of manhood we have developed in our culture maintain the power that some men have over other men and other men have over women. Hegemonic masculinity was understood as the pattern of practice that allowed men's dominance over women to continue. Hegemonic masculinity embodied the currently most honored way of being a man, as it required all other men to position themselves in relation to it, and it ideologically legitimated the global subordination of women to men. Men who received the benefits of patriarchy without enacting a strong version of masculine dominance could be regarded as showing a complicit masculinity. Hegemony did not mean violence, although it could be supported by force. It meant ascendancy achieved through culture, institutions, and persuasion. Hegemonic masculinity in Western society hinges on heterosexuality. Economic autonomy, being able to provide for one's family, being rational, being successful, keeping one's emotions in check, and above all, not doing anything considered feminine. Hegemonic male norms stress values such as courage, aggression, autonomy, mastery, technological skill, adventure, toughness in mind and body. Moreover, hegemonic masculinity is hegemonic not just in relation to others' masculinities, but in relation to other gender or order as a whole. It is an expression of the privilege men collectively have over women. The hierarchy of masculinities is an expression of the unequal shares in the privilege held by different groups of men. Thus, some masculinities are deemed as higher than the others, as well as higher than other forms of gender. Number 3. Collective masculinities. Gender structures of a society define particular patterns of conduct of individuals as either masculine or feminine. At one level, these patterns characterize individuals. Thus, we say that a particular man or woman is masculine or behaves in a masculine way. These patterns also exist at the collective level in institutions, namely in corporations, armies, governments, and even schools. Masculinities are also defined collectively in the workplace and in informal groups like street gangs. By collective, meaning they are sustained by groups and institutions. For example, through workplace cultures wherein they exercise authority as seen in the military and government, at which they provide a fairly convincing corporate display of masculinity. still very little shaken by feminist women or dissenting men. Masculinity also exists impersonally in culture. Video games, for example, circulate stereotyped images of violent masculinity. They required the player to enact this masculinity symbolically in order to play the game at all. Cinema and TV shows portray stereotypes of masculinity such as abandoning father, disgruntled student, abusive partner, and the drug convict. On the other hand, in sports, an aggressive kind of masculinity is created organizationally by its structure, pattern of competition, system of training, and hierarchy of levels and rewards. Furthermore, images of this masculinity are circulated on an enormous scale by sports media. In this point of view, it is importantly about the ways in which the ruling class establishes and maintains its domination, as the common sense is about breadwinning and holding of power. The formation and destruction of social groups, and lastly, manhood. Masculinities and well-being. Research confirms a strong association between rigid norms about what it means to be a man and men's negative health practices and vulnerabilities. Men are unlikely to talk about their worries and more likely to drink and engage in other destructive behaviors when stressed. These findings echo the evidence in the literature that conforming the stoic and rigid notions of masculinity contributes to suicidal behavior and depression. Men's mental health. The mental health of men and boys is often overlooked, even though it can take a significant toll on their lives. When ignored, mental health issues can affect physical health and life expectancy. Untreated mental health conditions can lead to high-risk behaviors, including substance abuse, gambling, and other forms of addiction. Unheeded, emotional problems can also cripple a man's ability to fully function in society and within his family, and can even lead to suicidal thoughts and attempts. Depression can't be willed away. It's a serious mental health condition that affects a man's daily life, including the way he eats, sleeps, feels, and thinks. It can also affect his ability to work, go to school, and maintain relationships with friends and family. Depression is not a sign of weakness, and it can affect any man regardlessly of his age and race of ethnicity. Men don't always show the signs we often associate with depression, like sadness and hopelessness. Instead, they might appear angry or aggressive, making it easier for doctors and loved ones to miss the signs that something is wrong. As a result, men might miss out on the treatment they need to feel better. Depression and suicide are ranked as a leading cause of death among men, and yet they were still far less likely to seek mental health treatment than women. Common mental health issues in men: depression, anxiety, trauma, bipolar disorder, adjustment disorder, borderline personality disorder, mood disorder.
Good day, everyone. The continuation of our report is family formation, fathering, caregiving, and domestic rule. Domestic roles are closely associated with women as carrying them out can involve a loss of face for men. Great Deal has heard about increase in women labor force participation in recent decades, but less about men's labor force, caregiving, and domestic rule. So it means everyone has a role in life, but according to the research, men are on average not greatly increasing their role in household work. Less to do know, men are missing out in not engaging more in their domestic and family roles. However, it was said that the men may contribute to the domestic enterprise in other important ways, including through providing financial support, accompanying children activities, and others. Masculinities and alcohol drug use. More men drink than women, and men drink more than women. Rome et al. 2002. Studies show that men were more likely to drink than women. Drank alcohol in greater quantity and more frequently than women, and were more likely to face alcohol-related health and social than women. It means alcohol use and abuse has always been more prevalent among males than among females. The sex role prescription for men to affirm their masculinity by drinking is a major determinant of this sex difference. In many settings, men's drink encourage solidarity and stimulates courage. Protest masculinity. Protest masculinity is a form of marginalized masculinity which pick up dim and hegemonic masculinity in the society at large, but reworks them in a context of poverty. Connell 2005. In the other words, akin hegemonic masculinity, but in socially deprived context. Protest masculinity is a gendered identity aimed at opposing production relations and the ideal type of hegemonic masculinity. Protest masculinity has so far been conceived as a destructive, chaotic, and alienating type of masculinity. Also proposed as including destructiveness, low tolerance of delay of gratification, crime, drinking, and similar disposition. Carrying masculinity. The emergence of carrying masculinities in many parts of the world has been accessed in several reports since the early 2000s, all of them highlighting the virtuous impact of this reshape in male identities and practice for gender equality movement in societies. Connell 2003. Norwegian Ministry for Children and Equality 2009. The concept of carrying masculinity purpose that men are able to adopt what is viewed as traditionally feminine in characteristic. It means alternative to hegemonic dominant forms of masculinity. They are masculinities based on men's carrying and nurturing roles rather than the dominant, aggressive roles typically associated with hegemonic. Carrying masculinity can be seen as masculine identities that include domination and embrace the affect, relation, and emotional and independent qualities of their masculinity and men. Studies have been continuously developing from its inception and up to present. These studies covered common themes of masculinities different kinds of masculinities, such as hegemonic, protist, and carrying masculinities, and the relationship of these masculinities to various aspects of life and environment. Thank you.
And them no want no aggravation. You must step out.